It all amounts to interests at the end. Yes, economic interests, resources. Look at any hotspot in the world today and throughout history, you will see that there is some sort of wealth lying around in that area. Have we seen this? In our generation, we certainly have. Are we seeing it? We certainly are. But one thing's for sure. Yesterday's enemy is not necessarily bound to remain as such, because in the world of politics and economics, there are no constant foes, nor do we have certain friends. We are seeing this in action even as we speak. Remember the contentious issues we used to read and follow in the Mediterranean? Well, those are on their way to be solved, and even as we stick by the need to abide by international law and stop meddling in the internal affairs of others so as to have normalized relations or normal relations restored, it all amounts to interests at the end. The more there is need for opportunities and resources, the more entangled the relations become. Those who banked on being protected by yesterday's foes are now being exposed to the reality that this foe is turning to be tomorrow's friend. Good evening. Welcome to the Business Insider on Now TV International. I'm Ayman Salah. Our weekly program tackles events affecting economies and businesses, and we aim to bring you the inside story. Let's start with some news. The first item, Thursday is the last day for large taxpayers to sign up for the new e-invoicing system. According to the head of the tax authority, Rida Abdelkader, April 15th is the last day in a reminder sent to the companies in the second rollout phase of the platform. Finance Minister Mohammed Maid previously said companies failing to comply could face a host of penalties, including removal from large taxpayer classification, which would entail losing perks such as expediting tax procedures, settlements, and less frequent auditing. This can even amount to facing prosecution. Brace yourself for another celebration, and no, it's not the opening of the gem. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the relocation of Aswan's Philae Temple. Both the Minister of Tourism and Italy's ambassador to Egypt discussed the idea on Tuesday. An event celebrating the archaeological feat and a potential book detailing the effort could be in store. Philae Temple was relocated in 1971 to higher ground on Angelica Island after rising Nile waters resulting from the construction of the Aswan Dam threatened to submerge it. The UNESCO-driven rescue effort included Italian partners and cost an estimated $10 million at the time. What would this have, or how will it impact the tourism industry? That's a question to be followed. Welcome back to the Business Insider. I'm Ayman Salah. Tonight we're discussing Egypt's export potential, and I'm joined by my dear friend Mr. Ahmed Izzeddin, a board member and treasurer of the Egyptian Exporters Association, ExpoLink. A pleasure to have you on the show here tonight.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Let's watch this report and then start our discussion. Okay. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Expectations revolve around a strong but uneven recovery in world trade. According to the World Trade Organization, or WTO, prospects for a quick recovery have improved as merchandise trade expanded more rapidly than expected in the second half of last year. According to its new estimates, the volume of world merchandise trade is expected to increase by 8% in 2021. After having fallen 5.3% in 2020, continuing its rebound from the pandemic-induced collapse that bottomed out in the second quarter of last year. The relatively positive short-term outlook for global trade is marred by regional disparities, continued weakness in services trade, and lagging vaccination timetables, particularly in poor countries. COVID-19 continues to pose the greatest threat to the outlook for trade, as new waves of infection could easily undermine any hoped-for recovery. According to the WTO Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the strong rebound in global trade since the middle of last year has helped soften the blow of the pandemic for people, businesses, and economies, adding that keeping international markets open will be essential for economies to recover from this crisis, and a rapid, global, and equitable vaccine rollout is a prerequisite for the strong and sustained recovery needed. Two alternative scenarios for trade are presented. An upside scenario, where vaccine production and dissemination would accelerate, allowing containment measures to be relaxed sooner. This would be expected to add about 1 percentage point to world GDP growth and about 2.5 percentage points to world merchandise trade volume growth in 2021. Trade would return to its pre-pandemic trend by the fourth quarter of 2021. In the downside scenario, vaccine production does not keep up with demand and/or new variants of the virus emerge, against which vaccines are less effective. Such an outcome could shave 1 percentage point off of global GDP growth in 2021 and lower trade growth by nearly 2 percentage points. What probably mitigated the overstated impact effect of COVID-19 was the strong monetary and fiscal policies by many governments. Fiscal policy in particular boosted personal incomes in advanced economies, allowing some households to maintain relatively high levels of consumption and supporting more exports than would otherwise have been the case. Lockdowns and travel restrictions caused consumers to shift spending away from non-traded services and towards goods. Innovation and adaptation by businesses and households kept economic activity from falling even more. Manufacturing supply chains were able to resume operations, and many people shifted to working remotely, generating income and demand. Finally, trade policy restraint by WTO members prevented protectionism from strangling world trade. For the whole of 2020, merchandise trade was down 5.3%, which is smaller than the 9.2% decline foreseen in the WTO's previous forecast in October 2020. In 2021, demand for traded goods will be driven by North America, which will account for 11.4%, thanks to large fiscal injections in the US, which should also stimulate other economies through the trade channel. Europe and South America will both see import growth of around 8%, while other regions will register smaller increases. Much of global import demand will be met by Asia, exports from which are expected to grow by 8.4% in 2021. European exports will increase nearly as much by 8.3%, while shipments from North America will see a smaller rise of 7.7%. Strong forecasts for export growth in Africa of 8.1% and the Middle East 12.4% depend on travel expenditures picking up over the course of the year, which would strengthen demand for oil. Meanwhile, South America will see weaker export growth of 3.2%, as will the Commonwealth of Independent States, 4.4%. Welcome back. So, to know where Egypt stands in all of this and in these figures that we heard in the report, I'm joined by Mr. Ahmed Izzeddin, a board member and treasurer in ExpoLink, Egypt's Export Association. Before we know, or before we hear from you, where does Egypt stand, let's talk a little bit about ExpoLink. What does it do in that regard?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ayman, for having me today, for talking about such an important subject. Which is how to enhance exports and what's happening in the world market now. I'm pleased to be with you today. ExpoLink have been established in 1997 by a group of prominent businessmen. It's an NGO. Its role is to offer an array of services to enhance the startup of the exporters, or casual exporter, or pro exporter. A set of services starts to support all the exporter journey, starting from making market studies through all the system of services until it's an eligible product to be exported. So we offer a set. We are in strong collaboration with the export councils. Also, we made alliances and cooperation with the major exporters union all over the continents in order to exchange data. So we have also a very modern and strong database system to bring all the analysis about what markets, and we made also an export map. Which markets are the more attractive markets for the Egyptian competitive products? What is the set of pricing we advise the exporter of? What is the preferable specification in these markets? What type of packaging, what type of labeling should be on this? This is the startup, and through the way we make also a very advanced program with one of the strong consulting house in Egypt, is to train the exporters as an exporter incubator, train the exporters on export finance, the new tools, export guarantees, how to export to Africa, what type of payment terms in Africa, what is the ways to match make B2B in Africa. And then we go to another level, we also make many trade missions in collaboration with the Export Council, Engineering Export Council, Building Material, Ready-made Garment and Textiles, Food. We go to Africa. We are focusing on Africa. It's the future. As we see all the parameters, all the world are focusing on Africa because it's very high developing countries, and also they prefer our products. We integrate with the African market, and also we can have a regular supply of raw material from Africa also.
And we have a number of agreements with Africa.
A number of agreements. This is what we are going to do, but we make all the way trade missions to all over the African countries. We went to Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Senegal, Gabon, Ghana, Morocco, Algeria. We have been through all the region, focusing more on Africa and the Arab countries, and I can tell you it is very promising, really, and I believe in it. We need to work more together. This is why ExpoLink is bringing all the forces together in order that we can have multiple of output. Also, we are joined with financial institutions in these visits so that the deals there can be concluded with the financial institutions. So all the cycle with the finance, because in Africa they need certain terms of they want to have the goods ready, the part of the payment when the goods arrive. So they need certain type of payments. So we have all the solution with prominent financial institutions joining us, and deals are made there. Also, we make trade missions, road shows for the buyers, for the big buyers, big buying houses. in Egypt to visit the factories and to inspect and to see the goods, to test it, and they make the agreements. And we have a multiple of success stories in these fields. And also we guided or we helped over the way to find partnership for Egyptian producers to open factories in Africa. For light industries, for plastic industries, for packaging.
You serve as a business development
arm, and I'm happy to say that they are having very good feedback. We are having very good feedback from them.
All right, so we'll get into that, but let me just take it from where we left in the report. The figures and the expectations for the demand for traded goods in 2021. And there are expectations that by the fourth quarter of 2021, trade will go back to its pre-pandemic levels.
Yes.
Where is Egypt in that regard?
I think we are on the first lane. Definitely through in the last 2-3 years, Egypt have been, or the government of Egypt have been focusing on making a modern infrastructure to facilitate transportation of goods like the highways of roads and the ports. And also there is a program very advanced made by one of the prominent ministries in Egypt called Gusur, is to how to penetrate Africa through having shipping lines in order to penetrate and to have logistic hubs. So Egypt have been planning an infrastructure for facilitating the export through our region, which is a focused region. And also there is another very good advantage in Egypt, for Egypt, is the trade agreements that Egypt already signed with the European Union, also after the detachment or Brexit for Britain from, we started to have many requests from British companies who would like to have direct contacts and direct agreement, because Egypt signed with Britain, with UK, United Kingdom, an agreement for direct trade or special agreement. We have many companies who started to work directly with Britain, and thus we find a new market. And through the COVID era, while it was tough for everyone in the world, for trade in general, as the report said, it was tough, but definitely it have showed to the exporters new avenues to get their product being accessed, like through the digital marketing. So many companies are making now their meetings and their deals through webinars, through Zoom, place online. The static transfer of bodies are not there anymore. You can make, you can send the samples by the specs. You can have a roadshow. We made 2 roadshows, 2 expos in ExpoLink through the webinar. And we have, we also designed for more than 80 companies who participate, Egyptian companies, electronic catalogs. So you have all your products electronically displayed with their specs, and you have the contact person online with you. The good surprise, which is very positive, the strong flow in these 2 expos digitally are from the sourcing companies all over in United Kingdom, in Europe, in United States, in Asia, from China, from Japan, the sourcing hubs. Sourcing big buyers, because in the COVID there is, while it was hard on the trade, but it also get some positive sides, that the conventional supply chain have been disrupted, and the big buying houses or sourcing hubs, they started to study to find alternative. They need alternative way. This is where Egypt are very suitable and are on the first seats in, because of its location, because of its conventional competitive product sectors that I would like also when we have the chance.
We want to go into that.
Egypt have got also a competitive advantage or competitive edge in certain sectorial products that most of the world admire and request. Like the textiles and garments, Egyptian cotton. Inside of it, you see the sections with Egyptian cotton. The second thing also is the food industry. And the third thing is the plastics and the packaging industry. The fourth or the fifth are the building material and ceramics. Egypt have got an edge. They have got strong, these are the 5 preferred competitive sectors we see in ExpoLink that require more encouragement. Why these sectors? Because of certain parameters. First thing, the number of workers working in this industry. For instance, job opportunities. For instance, the food industry, food sector, there are about 780,000 employees are working in this sector. The second parameter is its contribution to the GDP. The food industry, the first one, 3.5% contribution, the exports of it.
Over 3.5.
Over 3.5. Yeah. And also the value added, the value addition. This is the third parameter. In the food industry, you have here a lot of raw material that can be transferred with a high added value. The same, you have the Egyptian cotton, you have the Egyptian linen. So there is a big chance, and it is highly requested. The shirts, the Egyptian shirts, are the most expensive in the Europe and the United States and Asia. And also the plastics are very conventional. There are more than 4,000 companies, and also the furniture sector. This is why the Ministry of Investment and also the Ministry of Industry have sponsored to make furniture city in Damietta. This will have a big chance because it relies a lot on the Egyptian handmade, and we have a history in that, and we can be main supplier to all over the region. It is also for rebuilding projects, Egyptian furniture, the doors and the windows, and Egypt can play a big role. So I am very optimistic. Egypt will be the bright star in the coming years for the region, for the building projects, rebuilding projects, for the conventional supply to the retail market. After Brexit, it is an opportunity for Egypt now to work with Britain more and more and more. And the agri-products and the food industry and the textiles will hopefully, I expect personally, they will see a fast rising by the end of COVID in UK market in specific. While in United States, we have a conventional, very good market. Hopefully it's increasing every year in ready-made textiles. It reached about 1.5, 1.6 billion US dollar. So it's promising to grow. While the world after the COVID are searching for new sources of supply. Egypt come in the first seats.
But it seems that we're focusing on traditional markets, if you will. How about opening new markets? Are there attempts to do so?
Yes, this, as I told you, we are focusing in our plan starting from January on African market. Already we have to Senegal and to Uganda and to Kenya and to Rwanda, all the Nile basic, and Tanzania, Madagascar, Zambia. Already we have pilot trials with traders. We are already working with the union, exporters union and importers unions in this, and we have rising interest and rising request for Egyptian products. Definitely we have competition. So from countries that are also the tigers of exports, of exporting in the region and outside. This is why ExpoLink are making a series of an array of activities and services to help the competitiveness of the. For instance, you need certain packaging, certain weight.
Right.
Weights are preferred.
Readiness.
Exactly.
Are our products?
Can I say an example?
Please.
For instance, when you are exporting, we export some products, some good sectorial products to Angola. Angola are Portuguese speaking. The first shipments were in English. After they received, they said, it's perfect, we want to, but we need it to be written in Portuguese. This shift have made them to make a contract for 1 year to receive this product. After we changed, and they just put a Portuguese full interpretation with the Portuguese, the producer himself. And now it is one of the main markets for such producer. So it's just an example that when we made this trade mission, the big importer, we went to Mauritania. Mauritania is the gate to South. There is very important market also throughout this region, West Africa, but we collaborated with the chain of traders there that are already established, and they were find difficulties in the COVID era is to source from Egypt. So when we matchmake together, we started to have a direct, not through third country, but directly from Egypt. There was a question about transportation. The project I'm telling you that is made by one of the prominent ministers in Egypt, Dr. Hisham Tawfiq. He's leading this. It is Gusur. It is the transportation. The transportation and the logistics is very important to reach this high potential market in Africa. Another also, not to surprise you, but another fact, the prices in Africa in the market are maybe more than the Egyptian market. So in many products, because it is also they depend on importing from many countries. So it could be also with a very good leverage to the Egyptian exporter, but it needs tools of payment, it needs the relationships. This is why data, we make market study for the target. For instance, Zambia, we have a full scale analysis. Each product, what is the imports, what is the requirements, what is the prices, what is the brands in the market, how is the packaging of these brands, and we give this to our members or
full market research.
Full market research, we give it because data is the most valuable factor for any exporter. He needs to start the journey, I told you, with this.
That's the word that I wanted to touch upon, the export journey, because you're taking them on a journey.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. If I can excuse you, Mr. Ayman, it is with successive steps. It starts with the business market study. Like I told you, with full analysis about the country. We have each country, we have a full database. It is connected with the top data warehouses in the world. So we get the full updates, 10 digits HS codes, and we can reach to who is also importing this in this country. So we give this data. We start with the second thing is to export readiness.
So one is market intelligence, market
studies. The second thing is export readiness. What is export readiness? Is to assess the exporter competitive edge. Does he have the knowledge? Does he have the personnel to deal with it? Is he a supplier, or is an a producer of an end product? Is his raw material certified? Because when you export, you need to have it from a
certification process.
I'm coming to you we analyze the export readiness, and we give a full analysis. We have a group or a department working only for that, to assess all of that. Is the materials used are according to the specs required in Africa? For instance, in Africa they like very much in the colored. It is not our style. So are you putting in your collection, you are producing the full colored dresses, and or you are working on plain? So we give them the advice, please, you should be ready, export readiness, you should be ready with such kind of collection. Okay, and all the way goes. The third thing is certification. Do you have a certification? Because it is required. For instance, many African countries require inspection, okay, by international bodies to have a certificate. So the factory itself should be certified. Certification doesn't mean only the certificate itself, but they should have documentation, regular documentation for all the quality procedures. The fourth thing is after certification, and we are if we find something missing, we lead to make for them the certification through direct contact,
right,
and with very marginal cost on them, because we make a full program. The fourth thing is the product and process updates. Like I told you, the packaging, how is the packaging being done? This is a big question. It is most of the African countries, they need packaging with a certain, for instance, certain sizes, which is not conventional in our countries. So we advise them. How we advise them? We send scouting missions. They survey the markets and they bring us this information on the ground, not from books, not from database. And then we go all the way through marketing and promotion. Like I told you, we make e-catalog, we make, because exchange now of data should be fast and mostly online.
But scouting, you're talking about a certain sector, not an individual
certain
company.
sectors, we go and we review certain sectors. This is why we make in collaboration with some of the export councils or with the Chamber of Industries, the Federation of Industries, or according to request of certain clusters. Also, we make exhibition organize in certain countries according to request. For instance, we made for the handicraft in Italy, in Milan, in collaboration with one of the prominent financial institutions. We brought the handicraft producers to Milan, to one of the very well-known ballrooms there, or showrooms, and the Egyptian pavilion was, like I told you, ahead, and they sold all what they had, and they had requests, the handicrafts, you know, Khan al-Khalili and all of this handiworks and the Akhmim work. It was a big success, and it leads the way that now I'm very happy Diarna and all this very important expos focusing more on the handicraft. Egypt is very...
What about other sectors? You mentioned the agro industry, the textiles, the plastics and the packaging and the ceramics and building materials. But I was thinking more in line of, what about the IT sector? Doesn't this have a major potential that Expo Link can work on?
Yes, for sure. This is the export of services. The export of services, it's wider than the exports of goods. Definitely Egypt, God gave her the Nile, God gave her its great population. It gave her a location that is really intelligent, that you are linking the north and the south, the east and the west, you are in the middle. Exchange of data now are through sourcing and outsourcing of services. Egypt is, and one of the good examples is the smart village we have, and also many companies are entering to the field of outsourcing of its IT. Call centers, all of this. So this is part of the center is increasing exports through services, financial services, accounting services. It is now making, we are making it now online. So I think we are also working on this field is to enhance and to enlarge more focus and to align, to bring the attention of the European and the American investors that Egypt also could be a very big hub for exporting services.
Seems we have a lot to talk about.
Definitely.
But we have to wrap it up here. We'll continue hopefully in other shows.
Thank you.
A pleasure to have you
very
with us
much.
on
I'm
the
pleased.
show, Mr. Ahmed
I'm pleased,
Azzeddin,
sir.
board member and treasurer of ExpoLink, a lot of other hats and other titles, which is
Thank you very
a subject for other shows. Thank you
you
very
very much.
much for
Thank you,
joining
sir.
us. Thank you for being with us, and I take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy Ramadan.